On this week's episode of You Like That podcast, we'll cover the Minnesota Vikings' biggest win of the season over the Green Bay Packers, recap the NFL Week 11 games, as well as preview our upcoming matchup against the San Francisco 49ers.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Like That podcast. What a week it was for the Minnesota Vikings as they take down the most hated team in Minnesota, the Green Bay Packers. My name's Jackson.
And this is Matt. And Jackson, that win felt damn good. Really coming off a big victory against the Chargers, who I would say aren't a stellar team, but they're a pretty good team in this league. And it was a good win coming off probably the worst stretch that the Vikings had this season against the Cowboys and then the Ravens. But the Packers come into US Bank Stadium as the number one team in the NFC. We knew this game was going to be close. We did. And with the Vikings play every game close, the Packers are a little bit overrated, and I don't think that's bias slipping in. I literally do think they're overrated, but the Vikings came out with a win, and I thought so. The Vikings move at 5-5. They move into the 6th spot in the NFC, which is the second wild card slot, surpassing the New Orleans Saints. The game was great. The Vikings are surging upward. The Vikings fan in me is setting me up for a lot of pain down the road.
Yeah. We're 5-5, like you said, which isn't a great record, but with the extra game this year and the extra playoff spot, we're well into the wild card right now, and there's really no dominant team in the NFL through 11 weeks.
So no, there really isn't.
I mean, this Vikings team could easily get into a playoff spot. Especially if they can go into Lambeau and beat the Packers, if they can go into Soldier Field and beat the Bears.
The game this weekend against the Niners is huge too, because the Niners are in contention for the wild card spot like the Vikings are. So a win here would give us a tiebreaker over a competitive NFC team.
For sure. And I mean, I don't think the Vikings are going to take the NFC North by any means.
There'd still be a long ways to go.
They pretty much have locked down the second seed, which it's big for playoff standings. And yeah, this week's a big week. We're going to be competing with the 49ers the rest of the season for a playoff position. And we win this week, we have that advantage over them if our records were similar or the same come playoffs. And the Vikings can beat them. Just the fact, will they? I mean, the last couple of weeks have been very encouraging coaching-wise, too. I mean, Mike Zimmer came out and said that he wants Kirk to keep on going, keep on letting it loose. If he throws an interception, he throws an interception, which is completely different from what we ever thought.
Who is this Mike Zimmer? Yeah, even Zimmer said his relationship with Kirk changed, and he's like, normally he wouldn't say something like that, but he's like, if you keep taking shots, I don't care if you throw an interception. It's going to happen when you take chances. It does not sound like Mike Zimmer at all. It feels like he's kind of realizing why the media and why the fans have been on him the last couple of years, and that the defense isn't top tier like it used to be. So we're going to have to take chances to win football games.
For sure. Interceptions really aren't the end of the world. They're really not. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes. He's leading his division. He has a ton of interceptions, and they've lost a lot of games because of them. But it's just those taking chances. And when he doesn't throw an interception, a lot of times it's a touchdown deep. So
I'd rather Kirk throw an interception every game than check down short of the sticks every game on every third down. So, yeah. But Vikings win this one. The most hilarious part of this is, for the first time in what feels like our entire lifetimes, the refs did not favor the Packers in any way on Sunday. And not that the refs were bad by any means, but the Packers weren't getting calls that they normally get, which are horrible calls, and the Packers fans were complaining. I mean, they were complaining over replays that were most obviously drops, as in the Darnell Savage interception that was dropped, and the other interception that Kirk threw where they got a roughing the passer, where it was textbook roughing the passer. I mean, the defender took his helmet and drove it straight into Kirk's face mask. So both penalties, both were called. Packers fans still complaining about it because they're used to getting away with these things.
For sure. And we've just gotten used to this. I mean, saw a lot of the Vikings beat the practice squad Packers. But if I recall last year, we walked into Lambeau beating them with our practice squad defense. So, yeah, it's a bitter rivalry, and whenever a team who's not supposed to beat the division rival beats them, it's going to be quite offensive to the other team. But let's get into go ahead.
I have one more point on this. It shows you how spoiled the Packers fans are, because even after like 4 years after the rule change, they still don't know what a catch is. They said the Darnell Savage went to the ground. He had the ball in his arms when he hit the ground. They don't understand. They've been getting calls for so long that they don't understand if you lose possession of the ball after you hit the ground, it's not a catch. Just blows my mind.
Yeah. There was a couple calls where it was pretty obvious, but whenever they don't get calls, it seems like they lose the game. But yeah, well, let's get right into the offense. Let's go start right with the positives. And yet again, we talk about Justin Jefferson. A few quiet weeks from Jefferson got us worrying about this offense. And non-ironically, we see Justin Jefferson go off in 2 weeks, and we win in 2 weeks. So Justin Jefferson's a big key to this Vikings team, and he went off yet again.
Justin Jefferson is the best receiver we've had since Randy Moss, and he's in his second season in the NFL, which is absolutely insane. Feels like every time Kirk throws the ball up to Justin, he finds a way to adjust, finds a way to come down with the ball or draw a penalty. Watching him at this point is just insane, because every time you see the ball going his way, you know he's going to make a play.
For sure. And it seems like he's always open in the middle of the field. And he finally got into the end zone a couple times too, which has been something that he hasn't done the last couple of weeks, even with the yardages. But yeah, he said before the game that he's not leaving US Bank Stadium without a touchdown. So he definitely got
he almost had 3. That first deep pass that he was reaching out, and it looked like a touchdown live, but then they replayed it and it was just short. But he almost had 3 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, that would have been absolutely insane. But yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson was unreal. Kirk Cousins was shaky at the beginning of the game, in my opinion. I mean, he was kind of creating his own pressure, getting out of the pocket when he didn't need to, kind of thing. But he settled in, and he still got a lot of pressure. The offensive line really was not good. I mean, Kenny Clark with the backup center who got the starting job over Garrett Bradbury and Mason Cole, he got destroyed by Kenny Clark every play. And he was on his butt the whole game, and Kirk Cousins still just got the ball out really fast, and he found receivers. And he found him downfield, which was a big reason why Justin Jefferson's not the kind of guy he's not a Devontae Adams type player where he can go to the sidelines every play and make. I mean, he can, but he's not the kind of receiver to get 5-yard catches a lot, or like a Michael Thomas. He's a deep ball first kind of guy. He plays all over the field too. So, he was excellent. Kirk Cousins played really well, and it was just a good all around game.
And I'm not used to giving props to this guy, but and no one's gonna mention it just because how bad of a year he's had. But great game called by Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak was just I don't know about fantastic, but he probably called his best game against the Packers on Sunday. Outside of the CJ Ham fullback toss, there's a lot of creative plays from Kubiak. The one that sticks out to me most is when Justin Jefferson's first touchdown, I believe, he was lined up in the backfield, lined up in like the running back position. Justin Jefferson talked about it. Doing that allows him to get a one-on-one. He ran a Texas route right into the middle of the defense. No one was there. He got in the end zone. Crucial third down. And that's where we've been struggling. Kubiak struggled with play calling on third downs, and he set up a nice play there. Jefferson got in the end zone. And yeah, I just think when we shit on Kubiak for his horrible play calling, he deserves it. But when he has good play calling, we have to acknowledge a good called game.
For sure. It was just well rounded. It seems like he had a little bit more freedom. The offense had a lot more freedom. But yeah, those are the positives. Just a few negatives, and I kind of mentioned it. Kenny Clark made this offensive line horrible. I mean, they did not look good. They only had, I think, 1 sack, maybe 2 sacks, but they really weren't. The offensive line was really bad. Especially Christian Darrisaw was disappointing in this game.
Darrisaw did not play well either. Yeah, no. I feel like Mason Cole. We didn't really hear much from Ezra, Udo, or Brian O'Neill very much, but Darrisaw and Cole did not have their best games. The Packers were consistently getting pressure without Rashawn Gary out there, without Zadarius Smith out there. And the Packers don't have a great pass rush. So we need to clean that up. The offensive line needs to start pass blocking better because we can't keep allowing that many pressures, especially when we're going against a pretty solid pass rush against San Francisco this week.
Yeah, I mean, Preston Smith is another name that I remember doing pretty well against this offensive line this last week, too. Yeah. He had a lot of pressure. Yeah, it needs to be cleaned up. The 49ers defensive line is one of the best in the league, and that's what makes them so dangerous. You got Nick Bosa, obviously. It's a strong group, and if our offensive line isn't on at least their half best, what they were this last week, it's going to be trouble. I mean, the way Mason Cole played this week, yes, he played one of the best D tackles, best pass rushing D tackles in the league. But man, I'd be hard to believe that Garrett Bradbury isn't back.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that. Mike Zimmer made a comment today about the offense has been playing well with Cole in. So that leads me to believe that Cole might actually start again, despite him not playing great. We'll see what the decision they make. I feel like they can't keep going back and forth. So whatever decision they make this week should probably be the decision for the rest of the year, because you can't keep switching in and out the captain or the focal point of your offensive line, the play caller of your offensive line.
For sure. But yeah, those were the offense. I mean, the offense was pretty much flawless. And it's encouraging that even without good offensive line play, they played very well against defense who's been pretty stingy the last couple of weeks. But yeah,
third ranked scoring defense in the entire NFL that Packers were coming into this game.
Kirk Cousins played better against the Packers than most quarterbacks have this year too.
Yeah.
Another thing to mention. But let's get into the defense. Our defense. Our defense played pretty well against one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I mean, Aaron Rodgers really struggled throughout this whole game. And yeah, his numbers were pretty good. And he had 4 touchdowns, I think, but he really couldn't get much going in some moments. At the end, it was Aaron Rodgers. He got the game close. But he really screwed himself as well at the end, but we'll get into that. First off, we did confuse Aaron Rodgers, which is something not easy to say, just with a lot of different kind of rushes.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee show on what day is it? Wednesday. He went on Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, and he was talking about how the Vikings are the best in the league at disguising their defensive scheme. And that's a lot due to Harrison Smith. Quarterbacks can't really read Harrison Smith, and they try to get an understanding of what the defense is going to do. And Harrison Smith is the best in the league at disguising what a defense is going to do. So Aaron Rodgers talked about that, how going against the Vikings is always kind of just a guessing game of what the defense is going to do. And in the second half, he said he guessed right a lot of the times, but sometimes he doesn't guess right, and it goes a different way. So it shows you the amount of respect that Aaron Rodgers has for Mike Zimmer's defense and for the players on this defense, which actually is quite encouraging coming from one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think we could probably admit.
For sure. It was helpful, obviously, and we did get a sack on Aaron Rodgers too. And we should have had an interception if Rashad Breeland had hands, but yeah. It was encouraging again. I mean, Patrick Peterson being back obviously helps. he did get slightly injured, I think, in the second half, but he came back right away. But yeah, it was awesome to have Anthony Barr back, who also played a heck of a game. And yeah, it's just an encouraging game. But like I said, Patrick Peterson being back helps it all. I didn't even hear Cameron Dancer's name all game long, which is always good. And yes, he's not on Davante Adams, who had a very good day, but he still held his own there. I mean, he's had a couple good weeks.
Yeah, the corner, Aaron Rodgers' passing stats don't really tell the whole story. Oh, sorry. He threw for a lot of yards, but I felt like the corners played pretty well. Patrick Peterson played fine. Bashaud Breeland, other than the dropped interception, played better than a lot of the games he's played this season. Mac Alexander got burned on that almost a timeout, not a timeout, Davante Adams double move, which was really, really bad. But I thought for the most part, the corners played well. And where the secondary kind of struggled on Sunday was basically all on Xavier Woods in the back end.
Yeah, he had his worst game by far as a Minnesota Viking. Even got to people talking about starting Cam Bynum in place of him. But I don't know what his issue was. He let Scantling back there a lot too.
He played
in the game winning. Yeah, in the game winning, or not the game winning, the potential game tying touchdown, or the game tying touchdown. Excuse me. At the end of the game was on him too. So he got ran over all over the field. A little discouraging just because of how good of a season he's had and extension talks from fans.
Hey, maybe it's driving down his extension value.
True, very true. I hope this goes away. I hope he still is what we've seen the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only other thing that I could think of bad about this game on defense was Aaron Rodgers was able to make a lot of plays, both through the air and mostly on his feet. He got a couple first downs, big first downs when we had the wide receivers covered, but we just didn't have anybody to rush him down.
So yeah, him scrambling outside the pocket too. The touchdown pass to Josiah DeGuara, first NFL touchdown where Rodgers scrambled outside the pocket. Gave himself some extra time and then fired an absolute missile to DeGuara in the end zone. Fantastic play by Rodgers. And even though he is apparently hobbled by a very, very bad pinky toe, I think he did perfectly fine with his movement on Sunday. And he didn't look injured one bit. But yeah, Rodgers always feels like he does that exceptionally well, scrambling outside the pocket, making plays with his arm down the field, or if there's space and they're playing zone, making plays with his legs and running as well.
For sure. Aaron Rodgers is obviously one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the league. But yeah, the Vikings defeated their division rival, and they will go into Lambeau next. I believe it's one of the second last game of the year, something like that. But yeah, and if we can go 2-0 against the Packers this year, that'd be awesome. But yeah, that was the recap of this week's game. We'll go into the week 11 games. Start with the Patriots and the Falcons, the Thursday night game that really wasn't much to watch.
Yeah, I didn't watch this game, but just like following it from the box score, the Patriots have quickly became possibly, and I think for sure in the last couple of weeks, the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, Mac Jones is making a case why he's the best quarterback in this last draft. And yeah, the Patriots are doing what the Patriots have done for the last so many years with Brady. He's still kind of a conservative quarterback. He's not throwing super deep balls. I mean, they're making these wide receivers like Kendrick Bourne one of the top wide receivers in the league this year. So it's definitely encouraging. And the defense just continues to get better and better each week. I mean, they shut out the Falcons, who haven't had the worst year. I mean, they're not good, but they had almost had the same record as the Vikings. So
yeah, the Patriots just demolished them, and their defense is coming around, becoming the Patriots defense that allows absolutely no one to score on them, which is scary. Falcons are going to lose a lot of games moving forward. Yeah. They're just not good.
No. Their defense is horrible. They lost their best wide receiver. They really don't have any wide receivers now or any playmakers. I mean, Cordero Patterson was out, who's having a great year. Yeah, Falcons are in trouble for sure. Moving to the next game, Ravens versus Bears. The Bears had such a good opportunity. The Ravens offense starts with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, your offense drives through your quarterback. And they were without their quarterback. They were with a undrafted guy, Brent or something Huntley, Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley.
He wasn't horrible, but I mean the Bears had a super good chance. They were fully healthy. They had a great chance to beat the Ravens, and they didn't.
The Bears didn't allow a touchdown until the final 2 minutes of the football game, and they still lost. It's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, they let Devontae Freeman run into the end zone to take the lead and win the game.
Yeah, the Bears are just terrible. Matt Nagy, Nagy chants are breaking out all over Chicago. I saw Nagy was at his son's high school football game the other day, and the whole crowd was chanting "Fire Nagy," which is hilarious. Yeah, there's rumors that he's going to be fired after this Thanksgiving game, but I don't know how reliable of a source that was. Hopefully not. Hopefully he is still the coach when the Vikings face them twice here in December.
Yeah, I personally think that high school thing is kind of I don't know. I feel bad for the kid that he's getting his name chanted to get fired, but that's just me. But next game, we got the Bills and the Colts, the surprise game of the week. The Bills are inconsistent. I don't know if they're in trouble. Just because they have the power to go through a playoffs and dominate, but their inconsistency against some teams is concerning, especially like the Jaguars. Now the Colts too are 5-5, but I mean they let Jonathan Taylor get 5 touchdowns. That guy, he saw Derrick Henry go down and he's like, it's my turn.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is incredible. I mean, you score 5 touchdowns on one of the best defenses, or has been one of the best defenses in the NFL this year. They didn't do anything else on their offense. They literally just handed it to Jonathan Taylor every single play, and they put up 41 points against the Bills.
Yeah. The Bills are not a team I would be super worried about. They're a team that could get things going very fast, but they gotta start winning games consistently. And at the beginning of the year, they looked like they were going to go undefeated. So
I feel like no Bills games are close. They either blow the other team out or they get blown out.
Except for the Jaguars, 6-9 loss.
Except for that, yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to the Lions and the Browns, a very forgettable game. Browns have been bad. They almost lost to a guy named Tim Boyle, who was the Packers' backup quarterback for a long time.
I forgot he was the Packers' backup quarterback.
Yeah, I think he has 2 touchdowns in his career and 13 interceptions before this game. Something really bad, but yeah, Tim Boyle's not good, and the Browns barely beat them.
Yeah, the Browns win 13-10 there. Nick Chubb had a solid game, but the Browns look bad once again. I don't really know what's up with them. Their offense just can't do anything, even against a bad Lions team. My takeaway from this is Jared Goff is practicing this week, thankfully, so we don't have to watch Tim Boyle on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Tim Boyle, Andy Dalton matchup on Thanksgiving. Just what America wants.
2 years ago, we had to watch David Blough on Thanksgiving.
Blough,
something like that. I don't know. But next game, we got the Washington versus the Panthers. Washington football team versus the Panthers. Cam Newton. He looked very good in the beginning of the game. It really was encouraging at the beginning of the game. He had a rushing touchdown. He had a passing touchdown to Christian McCaffrey. Kind of thought the Cam was bad.
Passing touchdown to Christian McCaffrey was sick.
Yeah.
It was a wheel up by McCaffrey, and it was just a dart by Cam, and it was a nice touchdown.
Yeah. And the only thing Cam Newton, we saw what he was with the Patriots. I mean, we saw what he was at the end of his career with the Panthers. Most exciting player maybe of this decade, but it's just I don't know if it's sustainable for the Panthers to make the playoffs, but I don't know. And Washington football team could have been just a case of they were a better team today. They've been decently heating up the last couple of weeks and beat the Buccaneers. I don't know.
The Washington is a team that I was high on at the beginning of the season. I thought they're going to be a playoff team. They started off very slow. Their defense looked very bad, but coming off a really big win against the Bucs, beating the Panthers here. And I mean, the Panthers aren't anything to be scared of, but taking down the Panthers, Washington football team, although they're kind of towards the bottom of the hunt for the NFC, but the NFC wildcard spots, I wouldn't count them out just yet.
I would personally. I don't think they had I don't believe in Heinicke, which I should because he's a Vikings legend, but I just don't see how Heinicke can lead them to a playoffs, which he kind of did last year, I guess. But I honestly don't even think this team would have made the playoffs with Fitzpatrick either. I'm not a Washington football team believer quite yet. Their defense is starting to maybe get to the point where they were at last year, but I could be very wrong. But yeah, Washington football team did beat the Panthers in kind of an exciting game, actually, surprisingly. But moving on to the Texans versus the Titans. The Titans
fucking suck.
I disagree.
Don't care if they're 8-3.
They
suck.
I disagree. I think they're the best. They're one of the top teams in the AFC. They just play to their. It's like the Vikings. We play to our opponent. They play to their opponent to the next level. I mean, without Derrick Henry, I don't know. I don't think the Titans are a bad team by any means.
The Titans are about to go on a skid.
I disagree. I think the Titans, they beat good teams because they play to the level of their opponent. And they just keep losing to these bad teams.
Who do they have right now?
Who do they have to beat the Rams?
I think it was a fluke. I think that they're just that Derrick Henry gets hurt. Everyone's expecting the Titans to suck. Everyone's against them like, oh, Titans suck. They're gonna fall to the bottom of the wherever. They're gonna lose a bunch of games. They rip off 2 in a row, and everyone's like, okay, maybe Derrick Henry didn't matter as much as we think he did. They lose the underdog mentality. Now they're going into games with their offense consists of Donta Foreman, injury-prone AJ Brown, Julio Jones is on the IR. They don't have any other offensive threats. So AJ Brown is their only offensive threat right now, and their defense is good, not great. They're gonna lose a couple games here.
I don't know. I'm not sold that the Titans are bad. If they didn't lose to the Jets and then lost to the Texans, people wouldn't be making such a big deal. They lost
the Jets and the Tex. Like, okay, one game a year, I understand. Like,
but
the Vikings always lose against a horrible team once a year, but they lost to the Jets when the Jets were like horrible, like not even fire in the pants Mike White game, like this bad Zach Wilson games, and then they lose to the Texans, who, I mean, they're a little bit better now because Tyrod Taylor's playing instead of Davis Mills, but the Texans are probably the second worst team in the NFL. The Jets are probably the third worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, we'll see. I still believe in the Texans, or not the Texans, the Titans. I still believe in the Titans. But yeah, moving on to the next game, the Vikings' next opponent, the San Francisco 49ers against the Jaguars. They played the Jaguars. I don't put too much importance on beating the Jaguars anytime a team does that. So I don't know. I mean, the 49ers obviously look good, but they also played the Jaguars.
Deebo Samuel, I see, has shifted to the running back position. He had, I believe, 10 carries in the game. Shanahan did not trust Jeff Wilson or Trey Sermon to carry the ball. Jeff Wilson had 19 carries for 50 yards, 2.6 yards a carry. Sermon had like 10 carries, but Deebo Samuel was the most effective of either of them of those three by far. 8 carries for 79 yards and a touchdown. Shanahan's getting creative with the injuries they're facing. Raheem Mostert obviously out for the year, and Elijah Mitchell, who has an injury that's still up in the air for the Vikings game. So that's something to watch. But the 49ers offense scored 30 points. Yes, the Jaguars, but it's still 30 points. And then Nick Bosa, who's kind of been inconsistent since his injury, he's put together 2 really, really good weeks in a row, just in time to face the Minnesota Vikings. So that's perfect.
Yeah. I still don't know what I think about the 49ers quite yet. There's definitely a team where things get going, but the 49ers take care of business against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but we'll move on to another super exciting game, the Dolphins versus the Jets.
Oh, man. The Dolphins win this one. The only exciting thing in this game is rookie second-round pick Elijah Moore has put together a couple really good weeks, and he had a lot of hype coming into the season too. 8 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown. Elijah Moore could end up being really good.
Yeah, he's a super exciting player to watch, for sure. He's very fast. He seems to be getting open as well. They just got to find a quarterback to throw to him. I mean, I don't think elite Joe Flacco is the answer. Zach Wilson,
elite Joe Flacco threw for 291 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
I suppose, but the Mike White game too. We thought Mike White could be that guy, but Zach Wilson just got to get back and get to the guy who he was in college, and the Jets could be on track to start rebuilding someday. But Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins are weird. You really like Tua. I think he's very inconsistent. Too inconsistent.
Okay, I wouldn't say really like Tua. I think the public hates on Tua so much that it's overblown.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the Dolphins can do. They have an easy schedule.
Dolphins are 4-7, which sucks. Very, very bad record. But their next 3 games, Panthers, Giants, Jets. So they're going to be favored in probably 2 of those games, Giants and Jets, and Panthers are a beatable team. So watch out. Dolphins could be 500 after the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see. They have a good coach to do that. But yeah, we're moving on to the Saints versus the Eagles. Jalen Hurts continues to just shove it down your throat that he can win games after you continue to hound on him being a horrible quarterback. And the Saints fall to under 500 and in the 7th seed of the NFC.
I'm going to try a new strategy here to try to jinx Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been playing good football. Eagles have been winning games. The Eagles have shifted to a more run-heavy offense to what the pass-heavy offense was the first couple of weeks of the season, which made no sense at all because when you have a running quarterback, you have to be a run-heavy offense, especially when you have a guy like Jalen Hurts. They finally shifted that way, and it looks like it's resulting in a lot more wins and a lot better football from Philadelphia. So who would have guessed being a running team with a running quarterback actually helps your team?
Yeah, and finally getting Miles Sanders back after they promised to get him more use also helps that. But yeah, the Eagles take care of the Saints. The Saints are in trouble just because they don't have their quarterback. I mean, they were set with Jameis Winston. They had a system. They had a way to win games, and they also didn't have Alvin Kamara the last couple of weeks. Saints could be in trouble until they're healthy again. But yeah, the Saints lose again. Move on to the Bengals versus the Raiders. Boy, the Bengals, they didn't play great, but they still won. So they're just finding ways to win, I guess.
Yeah, the Bengals are another team that's still kind of a little bit of a question mark. We know the Raiders are just about done. I mean, they've gone through so much shit this season. No one really expects them to make any sort of push for the playoffs. The Bengals have been pretty inconsistent. Rip off a good win here against the Raiders. The Bengals are an exciting team to watch. I mean, Joe Mixon's a really solid back. Ja'Marr Chase is a really exciting wide receiver who can make plays down the field. So the Bengals hovering in that playoff range, the wild card range. I'm hoping they finish up the season strong because I kind of like the Bengals.
I don't know. I mean, Joe Burrow definitely is a very good quarterback. He's worth that number one pick. It's just their defense to me. Their defense has to remain strong to fight for a playoff and fight for playoff wins. But yeah, moving on to the Cowboys versus the Chiefs. This game had expectations of hitting the over and some, and they did the complete opposite.
Yeah, Amari Cooper ruled out late in the week. He got COVID. And then CeeDee Lamb goes out in the second quarter with a concussion. The Cowboys put up less than 10 points in 2 of their last 3 games. Looks like both of their star wide receivers are going to be out for their Thanksgiving matchup as well. So we could be seeing Cedric Wilson, Michael Gallup season on Thanksgiving, along with our Andy Dalton, Jared Goff matchup.
Yeah, that should be fun. But yeah, the Cowboys defense has been struggling as of late a little bit. They maybe weren't as good as people thought. The Cowboys might not be as good as people thought either, but still to be determined. The next game, the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. Seahawks get Russell Wilson back. They're a healthier team, obviously without Chris Carson, but they still can't win. I mean, the Cardinals are considered one of the top teams in the NFC still, but they had Colt McCoy as their quarterback. They should have won this game.
Seahawks fall to 3-7. Doesn't look like Russell Wilson's 19 hours of rehab a day has been paying off.
Or his practice on primetime games on camera going through.
Yeah, his pregame practice where he takes a couple of steps back in the pocket and rips a fake ball. But yeah, the Seahawks offense has been terrible. I gave him a little bit of a pass in Green Bay because the weather was bad. I thought Russ would rebound because it's Russ. No, they were bad. The Seahawks sucked this year, which is something that you never really see coming. And the Cardinals win their second game with Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Cardinals just continue to keep winning games even without their best players on offense. But yeah, the Cardinals take the game against the Seahawks. Moving on to the Steelers versus the Chargers Sunday night game. Boy, Austin Eckler I think he's easily the best pass catching running back in the NFL. I think he's overthrown Alvin
McCaffrey behind McCaffrey.
I suppose McCaffrey. But yeah, I mean he's excellent. He's so good. And the Chargers debunk the theory that the Vikings ruin teams after they play them, and they beat the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers offense is so weird because 1 week they'll put up like 17 points, and the next week they'll put up over 40, and then it will go back to like 20, and then it'll be 40. They're so inconsistent at this point that when they put it together, they are extremely scary. And they did put it together on offense this week, but almost blew a late lead to the Pittsburgh Steelers and allowed Ben Roethlisberger to score 37 points on them. But other than that, yeah, the Chargers offense looked really good. Austin Eckler found the end zone 4 times. They're a team if you're in the AFC playoffs, you don't want to play just because you don't know what Chargers you're going to get.
For sure. Yeah, and the Steelers continue to embarrass themselves every once in a while. They'll win a couple games and then start losing again. But we'll move on to the Giants versus the Buccaneers, the last game of the week. And boy, I mean, the Giants are just a bad team. Sadly, I mean, it's just so sad since they won the Super Bowl last, I think, since OBJ has been in the league. I don't know. Daniel Jones is not good. They fired their offensive coordinator. Yeah, there's trouble in New York.
There's a lot of trouble in New York, and I was thinking about it during the game. Sure, Sterling Shepard was out, and Kadarius Toney got hurt in the middle of the game for like the 3rd time this year. I was thinking the Giants might have the most injury-prone receiver core of all time. I mean, Sterling Shepard is glass. Kadarius Toney early in his career has gotten hurt like 4 times in one season. And then we all know Kenny Galladay's injury history with his hamstring and everything else. So I don't know. It just feels like the Giants will never get those 3 players on the field at the same time because they just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and the one thing I had to take away, Will Hernandez is getting a lot of hate, offensive tackle for the guard for the Giants. He was Minnesota Vikings' number 1 want whenever that year he was drafted.
I loved Will Hernandez.
People wanted him so bad, and I thought he's been pretty. I haven't heard much of him since he was drafted, so usually I take that as he hasn't been horrible. But apparently this year he's been really, really bad.
Yeah, he was a guy that Vikings fan wanted, and me especially wanted because he was a guard who could move decently well, and he was very strong and could finish people in the dirt. And that's not something that Minnesota Vikings guards typically do. But yeah, he's been complete trash for the Giants.
Yeah, but Buccaneers take that one against New York. But yeah, that was all the games this week. We recap them all. Let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Let's start on offense. We can actually say this without being super pessimistic. The Vikings, where can they exploit the Niners defense? Where will we exploit them?
I mean, this is probably going to be a consistent thing through the rest of the season, but the secondary. I mean, when you have a player like Justin Jefferson, who is already a top 5 receiver, if not top 3 in the NFL in his second season in the league, and a really good player in Adam Thielen, a great red zone threat as well, you're going to be able to exploit team secondaries because we have 2 really good route runners like that and a deep threat in Justin Jefferson. So, I mean, that's where we can exploit them. They've got washed Josh Norman, and they've got Emmanuel Mosley, I believe his name is, also on the outside.
Yep.
So 2 corners that aren't very good. They lost Jason Verrett, season-ending injury. So they're a little depleted on that front. That's where we can beat them. If we can be able to get Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen the ball like we have the last 2 weeks, I mean, our offense is gonna roll.
The 49ers have struggled definitely on their secondary. The Vikings need to play like they have the last couple weeks. If they start going scared and conservative, start doing fullback, tight end, wide receiver screens. Notice how I didn't say running back screens. But yeah, it's going to be trouble, especially with a team. I mean, we'll get into it. Fred Warner. I'm just going to say that. But yeah, we have to continue to chuck the ball deep. They don't really have a ball hawk in their secondary. No. Obviously, Josh Norman, washed. I mean, Jakarski, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Jaquiski.
He's older. He's not very good anymore. And yeah, they have an older safety. I'm gonna forget his name, but something Ward. He's an older safety, I believe, too. So yeah, you just gotta exploit the secondary, which is their weakness on the defense. But where can we struggle? And my first word is Fred Warner.
Yeah, I mean, Fred Warner is one of the best inside linebackers in the NFL, one of the best cover linebackers in the NFL. He's a great player. He always seems to be all over the field, in the backfield, making tackles. I mean, Fred Warner is one of the best Mike linebackers that you're going to go up against in the NFL.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to pass in the middle very much at all. The guy can do everything. I mean, it seems like he can jump 10 feet too.
I mean, he's their biggest ball hawk on their defense, not any of their cornerbacks or safeties. It's Fred Warner.
Yeah. And it seems like he gets a hand on the ball wherever he is on the field. Yeah, it's a scary sight for sure. And obviously the pass rush, the 49ers pass rush is very good. Amik Armstead with Nick Bosa, and Daquan Jones.
DJ Jones.
Jones. Okay. Yeah, I mean they're all very strong, powerful pass rushers, and Nick Bosa's, thank God he's lined up to go against Brian O'Neill, our best offensive lineman by far. But still, I mean he's a lot to ask for.
Yeah, but Bosa is an incredible pass rusher, and it has been, and he destroyed us in the NFC Championship game, and then or not NFC Championship game, the divisional round, and then there Arik Armstead, who's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, and then DJ Jones, who's had pulled together a couple really good seasons. So a very good defensive line, especially in the interior there, going against Mason Cole or Garrett Bradbury and Oli Udoh and Ezra Cleveland. So that's a place where they can kill us and where they've killed us in the past before.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to the defense. Our defense has been playing much better than they should have the last couple of weeks, just with the injuries that they've had. And they finally get a healthy Patrick Peterson back. I'm hoping a Michael Pierce is in the future. I don't think this week, but I believe he's able to come back next week. It seems like we're probably going to be without Dalvin Tomlinson this week, possibly Everson Griffin.
Yeah, I don't see Everson Griffin playing either.
We aren't going to have the pass rush. We're going to have a similar pass rush to last year, unfortunately, this week, and they have a great offensive line too. I don't expect much success rushing the passer at all this week. So it's going to have to be from the secondary and from the middle line. The linebacker crew is going to have to play strong. And where can we exploit this 49ers offense with that in mind?
I mean, you mentioned the lack of pass rushers that are going to be available to us on Sunday. Our best pass rusher that's probably going to be playing is Armon Watts in the middle. Sheldon Richardson had a really good week against the Packers as well. But our edges, assuming Everson Griffin does not play, going to be DJ Wanham, Kenny Willekes. We just signed Tayshawn Bauer back from the Patriots practice squad. Eddie Yarbrough. Like, we don't really have any pass rushers on the edge this week. So we're going to have to create pressure elsewhere. We're going to have to bring blitzes. Mike Zimmer's going to have to be really creative with this blitz package this week to try to disrupt Jimmy Garoppolo's game. But yeah, it's gonna be a task for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a struggle, absolutely. Deebo Samuel is really where it's gonna be a big focus on this 49ers offense. They're not gonna have healthy running backs. They're gonna have backup running backs running, who should be fairly easy to stop with like Anthony Barr and company. But Patrick Peterson, Rashad Breeland, and Cam Dantzler have some tough tasks trying to cover Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, who's really not been horrible either.
Yeah, their offense. So it looks like Elijah Mitchell, who's their starting running back, practiced limited on Wednesday. So that probably a sign that he's going to play on Sunday, which kind of sucks because Jeff Wilson was horrible in his starting debut last week. So Elijah Mitchell's probably going to play, but Deebo is the focal point of their offense. They've been trying to get the ball to him like 40% of the time, it seems like. So he's easily the biggest threat. George Kittle's healthy now. Brandon Ayuk's playing a little bit better football. And now if they're getting Elijah Mitchell back, it goes from what was a couple weeks ago a very limited offense in the amount of playmakers they had to that offense that could beat you in multiple different ways.
Yeah, certainly scary, and that's where obviously we're going to struggle without our big guys in the middle. The run defense is going to be limited as well. And yeah, we already mentioned the pass rush. But yeah, the 49ers versus the Vikings is going to be a very big game. And I mean, we're very encouraged. We have high hopes as always after winning a couple games in a row. We're 5-5, beat the Packers, beat above 500 Chargers. We need this win. This would be a big win for the rest of the year. But yeah. There's our preview for the Minnesota Vikings versus the 49ers. Let's get into our week 12 picks.
Yes.
And I took the lead in the week 12 pick, week 11.
Yeah. Two more picks right than me last week. So we went from tied to you up by 2. That's probably one of the biggest leads all season. We've just been hanging around each other. So week 12, maybe I can catch up here. We'll start with our 3 Thanksgiving games. First game of the day, probably the worst game of the week. I'm sorry as you watch this during your Thanksgiving lunch, but Bears-Lions.
I mean, I have to go the Bears here. I can't choose a team who hasn't won all season and tied to Mason Rudolph, so I'm going Bears.
I also have the Bears. This is a game that they win despite them being bad. I mean, their defense is going to just destroy Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Then we have the next game of Thanksgiving, your afternoon game. The Raiders. Thank you, NFL, for giving us the Raiders on Thanksgiving. We love that. And then the Cowboys.
I have the Cowboys here. Raiders are, as you've mentioned, a disaster right now. Not to fault their own, but yeah, I have to go with the Cowboys here.
Yeah, I had the Cowboys as well. Even though they're probably going to be limited, they're still a really good team. Their defense is playing really well, even if their offense has been shaky as of late. I have the Cowboys, and then we got our late night hammer, the best game. Excuse you. Best game of the day, Bills Saints.
Oh, I'm gonna go with the Bills. They're gonna have a bounce back week this week. Losing to the Colts, who they've had an on-off year this year, but losing to the Colts, they're not going to be happy about that. They're going to come back and dominate, probably by 15 plus.
So I also have the Bills, but I just have this weird feeling, and as I run through it in my head, it makes a lot more sense as I think about it. This is going to be a Taysom Hill game. Like Thanksgiving night, prime time, Taysom Hill is going to come out in the red zone, and he's going to score 2 touchdowns. So there's my – even though I say the Bills winning, I just have this weird feeling Taysom Hill is going to find the end zone.
I like it.
All right. Sunday football. We got Falcons, Jaguars.
I have the Falcons here. Our first disagreement here. The Falcons, they're not a good team, but they're not worse than the Jaguars.
I mean, I don't think they're worse than the Jaguars. I just think that the Jaguars, every once in a while, the bad team is going to win.
This is a pick'em game.
They're going to win. The Jaguars, if they're going to win a couple more games or even one more game this year, the Falcons is a good team to do it against.
Yeah, this is a pick'em game. I mean, they're both bad teams in the league, so it's really one or the other.
The Falcons are only favored by 1 point, so that shows you how down the public is on the Falcons right now. Jets, Texans.
I'm gonna go Texans here. They got Tyrod Taylor back. They're not like good anymore, but they're gonna be riding that high off of a win. So I'm gonna go Texans.
Yeah, Texans are favored 2.5 here. I have the Jets. I just can't see the Texans winning. I mean, they're winning 2 straight games. It just doesn't make sense in my head. So I have the Jets. They're just are gonna win this one. Zach Wilson's first game back as well. I don't know if that probably hurts the Jets, but
really,
Zach Wilson will be playing this week. And Mike White and Joe Flacco both got COVID. So there is no backup.
There's no backup.
Titans, Patriots.
I'm gonna go Titans here. I'm gonna stick with my point that I don't think the Titans are a bad team.
The Patriots are gonna murder the Titans.
Ooh.
The Titans are going to score 10 points. The Patriots are going to score 27 points. The Patriots are the hottest team in the NFL right now, and I don't see it stopping this week.
Yeah.
Next game, we got Eagles-Giants, the NFC least matchup.
I have the Eagles in this match. Jalen Hurts is just playing very good ball pretty much all year, so I'm going to go Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, if the Eagles stick to their game plan that they've been doing of just running the rock 30 times a game, they're going to beat the Giants because the Giants are just not good. We got another really good rivalry here. Steelers-Bengals.
I'm going to go Bengals here. I know the Steelers lost last week, so a bounce back could be in order, and the Bengals are very inconsistent, but I'm going to go Bengals.
Yeah, I also have the Bengals. I just can't trust Big Ben. That's probably the main reason why I picked the Bengals here. But and Jamar Chase is just incredible. He can blow a game wide open by himself. So I also have the Bengals here in the Pittsburgh-Cincy rivalry. And then we got the Buccaneers against I want to say the Colts, but it's really the Buccaneers versus Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, this could be a game where the Bucs struggle again and the Colts surprise people, but I'm still going to go to the Buccaneers.
I mean, the Buccaneers, I don't know. Is Vita Vea out? Now that I think about it, I think he's injured. He was limited in practice, so he'll probably play. If Vita Vea is out, it makes it much easier for the Colts, but Buccaneers are one of the best run defenses in the NFL. So I think they can do a pretty good job at least limiting Jonathan Taylor. So I think they win this game.
Yeah.
Chargers, Broncos.
Chargers. The Broncos are still very inconsistent, and the Chargers are just too dangerous.
Yeah, the Broncos started off hot against a couple pretty bad teams. Teddy hasn't looked very good. Chargers coming off a 41 point, 41 points against the Steelers. So I think the Chargers win this one as well. Rams, Packers.
I have the Packers in this game. They're gonna be mad. They're gonna want that win. They know they need this win because they're competing with the Rams in the NFC. So I'm gonna go Packers.
I've got the Rams. I think the Packers defense, they got a little bit exposed on Sunday. Finally, been waiting for it, and the Vikings did it to them. Going up against a better offense than they played against the Vikings. They're going up against the Rams. Rams have had a couple letdown games in the last couple of games. I think the Rams are going to rebound here. Sunday night, we got Browns, Ravens.
They'll have Lamar Jackson back, so I think it's just the way the Browns have been playing, a pretty easy choice to pick the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't know. I was iffy on this one, back and forth on who I thought was going to win this game. Kareem Hunt's going to be back for the Browns this week, but just with how the Browns have been playing, how Baker's been playing, he's obviously hurt. I have the Ravens as well.
Yeah.
And then finishing off the week, Monday night game, we got the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington football team.
I'm very unconfident about this. I wrote down the Seahawks before I wrote down the football team, but I did eventually pick the football team.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is a get-right spot for Russ. It's going to happen eventually. I just don't know what week it's going to be yet. But after watching them play the last 2 weeks, unless they have a total turnaround in 7 days, the football team's winning this one.
Yeah.
That'll wrap it up for our Week 12 picks. We'll pick the Vikings game here, Jackson.
Yeah.
What do you got for a score, and who do you have winning?
So I have 27-21, then the 49ers. I just think we don't match up well against the 49ers. If you look at both offense against the defense, it really just does not match well.
So interesting you have 27-21 Niners, because I have 27-23 Niners. I also think that having Dalvin Tomlinson out, having Michael Pierce out, having Danielle Hunter out for the season, having Everson Griffin out, it's going to take a toll on our defensive line. They're a team that likes to run the football, and we don't have your best run stuffers. It's going to be hard to stop them. So I have the 49ers also winning this one. I think that they're also a team that is on the come up like the Vikings, and they got the home field advantage on Sunday. Yeah. So we both picked against the Niners. Some people might not like that, but we've always been pretty transparent that we're not going to be extremely biased in our picks, and this is just how we feel for this coming week. We know little next to nothing, so this could very easily be wrong. We hope it's wrong. If that's just our prediction. Give me your hot take for Sunday.
So I'm going to have Jimmy throwing 2 interceptions, and I have Woods with 1, Xavier Woods, and Harrison Smith with the other. 2 safety picks.
2 safety picks. I have Chris Herndon will score his second touchdown of the season for the Vikings on Sunday.
Oh boy.
I think that we're gonna that Kubiak's gonna try to get a little bit tricky with his play calling again, which never bodes well. And we're gonna get a lot of short targets to players like Chris Herndon and Tyler Conklin. So I think Chris Herndon's finding the end zone here.
Very nice. My hot take last week did not pan out. I had Aaron Rodgers throwing 2 interceptions. He was only close to throwing 1. So
he was only close to throwing 1. Mine was Adam Thielen scores 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson ended up scoring the 2 touchdowns. Adam Thielen only got in the end zone once. So I was also wrong. And the hot take counter is still Jackson 1, Matt 0.
So 12 weeks.
We got like 5 weeks left. I need to at least get on the board.
Yeah, it's bound to happen sometime. Maybe something not so crazy like Chris Herndon getting a touchdown, but
yeah, it's gonna be a good game on Sunday. I hopefully it's close. Hopefully the depleted Vikings can still continue to play well despite some key players being out. But I'm excited for it. It's a pretty big playoff implications in this game. Not that it decides anything, but if we can win this game, it'd be very huge for our playoff chances.
Yes, I agree with that. And as always, thanks for listening. I think we're going to put this on a YouTube channel as well. So excited to do that. And as always,
you like that.